Hey, everybody. Oh, there we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Eating at a Meeting. This is a special episode on Thursday, and I'm so excited to bring to you this lovely lady behind next to me here, Chef Sarah Thompson. She is the executive chef of Casa Playa, which is in the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas. And she is one of the nation's top Mexican chefs. And I'm excited to have you here, Sarah. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here as well.
Um, and one of the reasons that we picked this date and this month was because, well, one, it's food safety awareness month. But another reason, too, is that you have celiac disease. And I really wanted to tie those two things together and talk to you about what that means. But I want to get into kind of what your experience is in general, at the basis of that. So can you share a little bit about your journey as a chef and what inspired you to become a chef?
I've always known I've wanted to be a chef. I was super interested in food growing up, and food was super important to my family. Every day, we would have home cooked meals. We would sit around a table and enjoy a meal together, which I think is where all of this started. And it progressed, and we invited more people. We would cook for more people. I would make food, bring it to all my friends at school, and it would just be a huge thing. And I loved doing it. So I knew I wanted to be a chef. I'm going to go to culinary school. That was the only thing I wanted to do. And then when I was 17, a senior in high school, I get diagnosed with celiac disease. And it just was like, whoa. Like, I still wanted to go down this path. I knew that I wanted to be a chef. And I was kind of ready to, jump over all of these hurdles, even though there was a lot of restrictions around my diet. And I'm so glad that I did. And then, from there, I started working at Michelin-starred restaurants in New York, and then Cosme, which is a Mexican restaurant, and that kind of brought me to Casa Playa at the Wynn. But Mexican food really opened up my eyes to a whole new world of flavors and, masa, which is the base of Mexican cuisine. And when I started working in Mexican kitchens, I realized I can eat everything. It was like, because everything is made from corn, and they use just the ingredients that they have in front of them. Like, they're using the chilies, they're using vegetables, they're using all of these beautiful ingredients, and it's all just naturally gluten-free. So it was an eye-opening experience, and I dove right in.
That's awesome. I mean, and you think about it too. I mean, but some of the sauces, like there's a Hispanic or Mexican restaurant in my town, not to the level of your restaurant, I'm sure. But in some of their sauces, they use flour. So what have you switched? And I think it was like what do I eat all the time? Quesadillas. Like some of those sauces have gluten in them.
A lot of quesadillas are also made with flour tortillas because they're a little bit more, pliable. So a lot of Mexican cuisine is really regional. Like, if you think about the US, New Orleans is going to be a lot different than like Chicago. Like, there's a lot of different styles of food in the US, and it's the same in Mexico. So regionality is really important. So when I cook food that's more of the style of like Mexico City and Oaxaca, and they're using corn because that's what they have access to. But once you get a little bit further north, to like Texas and like that type of border, there's a lot more flour and stuff like that. So that's why you see a lot more flour tortillas and like Tex-Mex style Mexican food.
Okay.
But if you're eating a lot of Mexican food or like Oaxaca style Mexican food, that's when you're going to start seeing all of the corn and stuff like that. Okay. So I think that just having that knowledge and understanding what the concept of I know Mexican restaurant is a really broad term, but understanding like what the style of the restaurant is going to be really helpful.
Okay. And I think I said quesadilla and I meant enchiladas, right? Like enchilada sauce. Sometimes it has a lot of, they put flour in it. I don't know why, but those questions come up to me all the time. I'm like, why do you do that? Right? Use something else. So in the style of cooking, did you have to alter any of those, learning that technique of Mexican? Did you have to change anything to make it gluten-free?
No. That's awesome. The way that I like to cook food is because it's really embrace the ingredients that you have in front of you. There's so much flavor in chilies. There's so much flavor in beans and so many flavors in all of the vegetables that we're using. So I just like to really showcase those and get all that flavor out of them between like toasting and charring and like frying and all of those methods, and just get all of the flavor out of those ingredients, and this really bold and powerful flavors.
Well, that's good. Now, and in it, all the different types of chilies out there, right?
So many.
Like the different spice levels as well, but also just the different flavors.
Yeah, there's
Is there a
just
special one that you like to use, pepper wise?
so the most common one that we use is called a guajillo. It's a dried chili and it has a nice sweetness to it, but it's the base of a lot of our like marinades, like El Pastor and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But my personal favorite is this chili called Pasilla Mije or Pasilla Oaxaca. It's there's Pasilla Negra chilies are everywhere. You'll see them in like moles and everything like that. But this is from a really specific area in Oaxaca, and they dry them in the sun, and they get this really nice smoky flavor that's super unique. And it's unlike anything I've ever had before. So if you guys are ever see Pasilla Mije, it looks like mix, or Pasilla
Okay.
Oaxaca, definitely give it a try. It's a super unique flavor.
Awesome. Now, I want to jump back real quick, and then I want to jump into the celiac kitchen thing too. But Tuesday night, just 2 nights ago, you were actually the host of the Friends of James Beard benefit.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. How did you get selected, and what did you cook?
So it was an honor being able to collaborate with the James Beard Foundation. As a young culinary professional growing up in New York, it was kind of always something that you worked for. Like, I want to have a dinner at the James Beard House. Like, I want to be at that level where I get invited. And because of the pandemic, they no longer have those. We no longer do the stuff at the James Beard House, but they do these Friends of James Beard, where they go around and chefs are able to actually cook at their own restaurants and collaborate with the James Beard Foundation, and all of the proceeds benefit the James Beard Foundation to the next generation of next great American chefs, which is really amazing. But it was an honor to be able to be a part of it. I was super proud of my team. We were really able to showcase what we are able to do at Casa Playa, and it was wonderful. We started the night with a lounge event with a big seafood display showcasing all of our ceviches. We made a taqueria with hand-pressed tortillas made to order with cochinita pibil and mushroom barbacoa and all the garnishes. And then it was followed by a 4-course meal. We did our summer squash tamal, our lobster el pastor. We did this beautiful rosy snapper a la brasa, which is just grilled with mole amarillo. And then we finished it with a plum dessert with a queso fresco semifredo and a masa strudel that was absolutely out of this world. And it was all paired with cocktails from our master mixologist, Marina Mercer-Barini. And it was out of this world.
That's awesome. Sounds delicious.
I think I said that all in one breath.
I need to come try all of that. It sounds so good. And okay, so you had these 60 people, and it's a big group dinner, right? It's not,
Yeah.
and so it was one chef's menu, right? Yeah. How did you manage? Did anybody have dietary needs in that?
Unexpectedly, we had some shellfish allergies and 3 vegetarians, which I did not see coming, especially because the menu was posted online. But we're a restaurant, so of course we wanted everyone to have an amazing experience. So we scrambled, and we made sure everyone had a great experience with other offerings that we were able to accommodate.
And okay, so that's kind of frustrating. They didn't let you know in advance, right? Yeah.
It happens. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
We work in big restaurants, so you see a lot of stuff gets thrown at you, and it's just like, okay, we're gonna make this happen.
Well, and actually, I don't know, this just popped into my head, but do you watch the show The Bear?
I watched the first season. I have not watched the second season.
Okay, well, I'm not going to give too much away, but there is a episode where Cousin, if you remember him, he goes and he's sent to a restaurant to learn how to expedite and all of that. And one night, the woman behind the expediter, I guess, she's like, okay, table 5, shellfish allergy, vegetarian. And the way that she managed it was mind-boggling, amazing. And just to go to show like how they managed all those dietary needs in one night, right? At a Michelin star, because I think they were trying to get their Michelin star rating. So So does that I mean, that's how it happens in the back of the house too? Do you have an
Yeah,
expediter?
I mean,
Yeah.
we actually have two expediters,
Mhm.
so we'll do 450, 500 covers a night. So it's we have one person expediting to the cold side, like all of our ceviches and salads, and one person expediting to the hot line and really organizing the flow of service. But we have a whole system in place to make sure, all allergies that, we have allergy charts all over the kitchen, so the servers know. And it's just like there's what, 9 allergies that
Mhm.
are. There's like,
Yes.
peanuts, tree nuts, dairy, gluten, soy, sesame. I forget the other two. Eggs and
Milk.
sulfites, I think it is, are the ones that we have to recognize. But we
Mhm.
get all kinds of allergies, and we have to accommodate all of them the same way. And some are a little bit easier to accommodate than others. Like sometimes people come in with a capsaicin allergy, and I'm like, that one's really tough in a Mexican restaurant. But we always make sure that people have a wonderful experience.
And for everybody to know, capsaicin is peppers.
Yeah.
Yes. She was just talking about all those wonderful peppers she cooks with. Okay, so you said you got diagnosed with when you were 17 with celiac disease.
Yep.
So and what I've read is that the kitchen is free of gluten. You cook with it's completely gluten free, right?
So our savory menu, there's one item on our savory menu that has gluten, and it's on the menu out of spite. It wasn't supposed to go on the menu, and I made it as a special one day, and everyone loved it, so I had to leave it on. But the ingredient that's in there is Maggi, so it's just a condiment. But we don't cook with gluten otherwise. We only use masa from corn. We have a huge nixtamalization. We cook all of our corn in house. We have a huge I would say a masa program. I'm sorry. So
Okay.
all of our corn we fly in from Oaxaca. We cook it all in house. We don't use any flour tortillas. And then the only thing on our dessert menu is churros that has gluten. It's a Mexican restaurant. We want to make sure we have churros. And we have a completely separate fryer to fry them in. So there's no cross contamination in any of our savory food or chips or anything like that. Because I like eating chips. I don't want to be worried about it. And I eat a lot of chips.
I'm sure you do. Do you ever get tired of eating chips and guacamole?
Never.
Never.
I've been cooking Mexican food for a little bit more than 7 years, and still every day, quesadillas, chips, and guacamole.
Okay. Oh my gosh, so such good food. Now, when I noticed it online, because I don't see that it's nothing says on, that everything's gluten free on your menu or online. Is that purposeful?
Well, we're a Mexican restaurant, and that's what we wanted to be showcased as because we're coastal Mexican, and that's what the concept of the restaurant is, and that's what we're really pushing to be recognized as. And it's just kind of like a pleasant surprise and pleasant treat that everything happens to be gluten free.
That's awesome. And your servers, front of the house and the back of the house, work together in communicating all of that.
Yes, all the servers know. So it's funny when people come in and they're like, "We have celiac," and like they'll tell the server like, "I have like all of these things." And the server's like, "Don't worry, the chef has celiac," and like they're like, "Really?" Like it's like, "Oh yeah, you can have everything." No
Everything
churros.
but the churros, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like our tres leches, our choco taco, we make it with the cup for cup flour, everything.
Hmm. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And just a churro story. Years ago, I taught a kids cooking camp in Atlanta, and I
Okay.
did all of my classes top 9 allergen free. And I was we were using gluten free flour, but I was replacing the eggs with aquafaba.
Okay.
And I ended up having 2 kids allergic to chickpeas. And
Really?
yes, and no kids allergic to eggs. So we just did the swap back in, right? I'm like, okay, that's an
That's
easy,
so interesting.
isn't it? Yeah.
I don't think we get a lot of allergies just because we do a lot of volume, and I don't think I've ever seen a chickpea allergy. So that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. And we thankfully hadn't opened anything up, so it was an easy fix. But yeah, I was like blown away. But it's like
So
you do what you need to do, right?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that I read or about you is that inclusivity is the core value at Casa Playa.
The wonderful.
How do you do that with your staff and then with your guests?
Well, especially with my team, there's a lot of diversity in the kitchen. Like every kitchen I've ever worked in has been incredibly diverse, but for me, like I love being surrounded by different cultures and people from all over the world, because we all have different experiences, and I feel like, and we have a very open dialogue in our kitchen, and I want all of my cooks to be pushed to be creative in whatever way they feel comfortable being creative in, and like learning from our peers is how we grow. So I it's actually really fun because I'll be making birria, and then I'll have two cooks that are from Jalisco, which is where birria originated.
What is birria?
What?
What is birria?
Birria is traditionally made with either beef or goat. It's a braise. It's a braised meat with lots of different spices. It's usually guajillo chili based and stuff like that. But quesadilla tacos are really popular right now. But I started making it, and they're like, well, this is how we make it in Jalisco. And like they're like, we can't tell you the recipe, but like, here are all the ingredients, we'll make it. And then they make it, and like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. I need to take all of these flavors and put it into this dish, and it's just like an open dialogue. But on a given night, we'll have people, like, I was like, my management team, like, we have, I guess, we have a cook from Mexico, we have a cook from Korea, we have a cook from the Philippines, and we all have really different experiences. So when we talk about developing the menu, like, they all have different inputs because they have all very different backgrounds, and it's really valuable, and it's what makes Casa Playa so unique.
I love the fact that you've got people from Korea in the kitchen and you're combining all of that. That's so fascinating.
Well, a lot of the like, if you look at a lot of Mexican cuisine and flavors, there's a lot of overlap with, especially like Southeast Asian cuisine. Like, you'll see a lot of Thai influence in Mexican food, and even a lot of Japanese influence as well in different ways. But there's a huge Korean population in Mexico as well, so you'll see a lot of these flavors kind of overlap, and they really complement each other really well.
Oh, that's so cool. Would never have thought about that. So yeah, it's and I love the fact that it's a melting pot. Basically,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, very cool. Now, I posted a video yesterday based on some experiences that I had, that I was being served by someone who doesn't speak English, and I said in my video, I'm 100% okay with hiring individuals, but we need to give them the tools to do their job successfully. So if they're communicating to me as the server and they can't speak English and answer my questions, I feel like the management team has failed them because they haven't given them the tools to do their job. What tools do you give your front of house and back of house staff to make them successful in creating that inclusive experience?
I mean, I always tell people, like, I'll give you all of the tools that you need. You just need to come to me with like the good attitude and willing to work. It's like, if you need, sometimes it actually is like a physical tool. Like, sometimes I need to get more strainers and more like, kitchen knives, because that's what they need. But otherwise it's just communication. Like, communicating effectively with your team makes such a huge difference, and it has a great impact. Making sure the front of house has the information about the menu, communicate what the expectations and the goals are, making sure they have the support that they need from each other, the right amount of people too. I mean, that's a huge one. If you're understaffed, which is something that all restaurants see, and sometimes, like, the moment you're fully staffed, something happens. It's like you're going to open for more days, or like someone leaves. But we work really hard in the kitchen, and everyone around us works really hard. So, as a leader, you want to make sure that everyone has the resources they need and, are being supported in whatever way they need to be.
And I'm sure in the back of the house, I mean, there's a wide variety of people. I mean, you said Korean and Hispanic, and do they speak English as well as their native tongue, or?
Almost everyone speaks English. There's a few people who only speak Spanish, but I speak a little bit of Spanish, and like other people on my management team are completely bilingual, so we're able to communicate effectively. And when we do pre-shifts with, especially the morning team, who have more people who speak only Spanish, we'll do pre-shift in both English and Spanish, so they know.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. You were talking about getting your corn, and I never say it right. Osaka.
Oaxaca. The X is a wa.
Wow. Okay. But you also talk about seasonality and fresh and seasonal sourcing. So, but you're in Las Vegas.
I know, it's still 90 degrees here every day. Someone was asking me about a fall menu, and I'm like, I'm still getting the best tomatoes I've ever had, and it's almost October. I'm like, I'm not going to take them off if they're delicious. Like,
Right.
um, seasonality to me is super important, and it definitely, like, obviously using Mexican ingredients is extremely important. But when you look at Mexican cuisine, I don't know if you've like traveled at all throughout Mexico, but it's super regional. So when you're in Oaxaca or you're in Ensenada or you're in Tulum, like you're using the ingredients that are around you. Like you're not importing stuff to Tulum from Oaxaca. That doesn't make any sense. You're using that coast, you're using those tropical flavors. When you're in Oaxaca, you're going to be using that heirloom corn, you're going to be drinking that mezcal because like that's what you have. So we wanted to really embrace that at Casa Playa. And like you said, we're in Las Vegas. So we don't necessarily have a ton of local farms. We actually are able to get mushrooms locally, which is amazing. We use this really amazing farm called Desert Moon Mushrooms, which is only 10 minutes away from where I work.
Awesome.
It's really, really beautiful. But we work with a purveyor that travels to 50 different farms in California, Arizona, and Nevada, sourcing the best, farm ingredients. And even though California is only an hour away from us, so we have access to a lot. Like even though it's not local, like the green market is local to New York, and I'm sure that you have something similar in Atlanta. Like we are able to get a lot of really beautiful ingredients, and we definitely base our menu off of what ingredients we're able to get through the season. Because it's super important that we just focus on what is around us.
Oh, that's fantastic. And they're looking for the quality that you want in those farms and those farmers. And are they, I mean, this is a random question. Are they large industrial farms? Or are they smaller farms?
No, these are small, definitely smaller farms that, some of them only produce like one or two ingredients. So like, we'll get our Harry's berries from Ojai, and like all they make is strawberries. It was like, once that season is done, like berries had a pretty rough season this year because of all of that aggressive weather that came this way. But, others will produce more things. But we use, I think it's like 7 or 8 rotating farms that we really seek out to get our ingredients that are really beautiful. And we spend a lot of money on produce in our restaurant. And I'm actually really proud of that, because a lot of places in Vegas are more like meat and seafood focused. And even though there's a huge focus on seafood at our restaurant, there should be a focus on all of the ingredients because they're all important.
I like that. That's really important because it is, and it's important to incorporate it across the board. All right. And you said one word in there, you spend a lot of money on your ingredients.
Yes.
Can we talk about price right now?
Please.
Yeah.
The price of crab.
The price of crab.
Oh, I mean, it was just a joke. I always was during the pandemic, crab wasn't being fished, especially Alaskan king crab, because it's so dangerous. So what we were doing is just buying out and usually they'll get frozen on the ship. So we'll get like frozen king crab. That's just how most people get it. But because it was so dangerous, they couldn't send people out, and because they could, in theory, send someone out, someone gets COVID, and they could all die because there's no, like, they go out for months. So we were just buying all of the king crab stock, and it went from about $600 to a case to $1,200 in a case just overnight. And it was just like, can't change your pricing on the menu because not a lot of people are coming to the restaurants because it's COVID, but we're also just kind of giving it to people at cost. And it was like, oh no. But that's just an extreme example. I know that we talked about the price of coffee earlier, which you said has gotten insane.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the price that meeting planners are being charged for it. Yes. In a group setting, but how, I mean, so you're not passing on those charges, or have you slowly built up to pass on some of the charges in the menu, or how do you do that?
We're always looking at costs. We're always looking about getting the right product for the right price. And, when we put together our menu and cost some things out, we always kind of like cost it out for the most extreme. Like, my Campacci could cost $8.99 a pound or $12.99 a pound. Like I'm always going to plan on getting it for that higher price just in case. And sometimes we'll be getting a product in and then the price will drastically change, and we have to go through a whole approval process. It's not like I can just like, this change, I'm upping the price. It's like, it has to make sense in the dynamic of the menu. And sometimes you just kind of have to, accommodate, like accept the fact that, some things aren't going to be in that right margin, but at the same time, my guacamole, I make a good amount of money on guacamole. So I was like, I can have a few other things. Like there's like, you have that balance. It's like you have a few lower cost items and a few higher cost items. And, you kind of find that balance. I feel like that's what restaurants are about.
Yeah, and I was reading some articles over the last couple of months, and then it's like they want people to come in, so they can't raise the prices like too much because then people won't come in. And
you can't price yourself out of a market.
Right.
But working in a casino too is you do have a little bit more leeway in how you can price things.
Right. So okay, so you're based in the Wynn Hotel, and so you get their buying power. Is that, I would assume?
Is fascinating.
Yeah.
I wish I knew more about it, because we have people hired just to help us find the right products. And this just isn't for food, it's for everything. It's like they source out the best cost toilet paper for the quality that they need and stuff like that. Cause like all of these amenities, like they go through more toilet paper than, like they have it posted in the warehouse how many rolls of toilet paper they go through in a year. And I remember seeing that and my jaw just dropped. And I was like, but also there's, over 2,000 hotel rooms and then bathrooms all over the casino floor and in every single restaurant and in every single club and pool. And I'm like, I guess this makes sense.
Yeah, that's crazy. To think about that, but it is. It's and then it's not, and then it's Encore as well, right? Not just
it's both
the
of them.
Yeah. Okay, so being in, I'm interested in knowing too. Your kitchen is inside the Wynn, and you're, we'll say, predominantly gluten-free in your kitchen. How does that work with the rest of the kitchens in the hotel? I mean, you're completely separate from them. Is that right?
Yeah. So the Wynn has a lot of resources, which is amazing. And we can source a lot of things from different kitchens. Like we have production kitchens, like a Danish shop that will produce all of the Danishes that we serve in the hotel that you'll find in like the in-room dining in our cafes. And same with like a pastry shop. I'm really fortunate to have my own pastry program at my restaurant. There's three of the restaurants have their own pastry program, but the pastry shop will do, the desserts for a lot of the other restaurants. So because I was really passionate and adamant about having this pastry program because I have a very talented pastry team, but also I wanted to make sure that, I can accommodate my own dietary restriction. I was like, I want to know that I can eat this tres leches. I want to know that I can eat this choco taco. And my pastry chef also is gluten-free. She's gluten-free and she doesn't eat seeds as well. And she has soy allergies, so she can't even have chocolate. So she is accommodating for all of these dietary needs as well. And she always takes into consideration her dietary restrictions as well. And it's really amazing working with her because she has such a huge knowledge of ingredients and what goes into them. And it has a huge impact on our program there. But when it comes to, I guess, is the question putting together the menu or just
the kitchen being in the Wynn? I mean, it's fine. You answered that. Yeah.
Right. But we produce everything at Casa Playa. We'll outsource a few things for like our brunch. We do, we do get some Danishes for brunch that aren't produced in our kitchen, and we'll get like stocks and stuff from another kitchen. But we have a lot of resources at our fingertips, and we have a lot of really talented cooks, and I want to make sure that all of their hard work is being showcased.
That's awesome. And going back to how you said that you work with all of them, no matter where they're from, to incorporate that melting pot literally in that. So have you experienced any unique challenges? I mean, from your get-go, as a chef, after you were diagnosed with celiac, going through the challenges and the rewards of running a completely, the gluten-free kitchen, but even working in those other kitchens, what were your challenges?
I honestly, so when I found out that I had celiac, I was ashamed. I was like, oh my God, how can I be a chef that has celiac? Like, this is so restricting because, that was a long time ago. It was like 17 years ago. And it was like, you couldn't go to a grocery store and get gluten-free pasta. Like you couldn't like look at a label and have it say, this is gluten-free, because nobody knew what it was. Like, and I wasn't informed enough to realize that there are so many just naturally gluten-free ingredients. Like every single vegetable, every single piece of fruit, every single piece of meat is gluten-free. And like just that alone is so much food. And
Right.
for me, going to culinary school and working at different restaurants and being informed at all different levels of just like what goes into making these things, what ingredients goes into them, what method goes into them, like where could this cross contamination happen, and seeing seeing with my own eyes and having those experiences, was super informative, and I was able to grow and learn a lot, and I don't feel restricted at all anymore. And which is great. And part of it is because I do run my own restaurant, but at the same time, like I have the education and I've had experiences, and like I'm also very confident in myself with the disease. Before, I had like a lot of shame around it, but now I'm just like, yeah, like this is just what it is. Like this is
Right.
life. Like it's or not, like
right. So how do you eat out, and where do you eat out, especially in Vegas? Where do you eat out?
I really like, there's a local steakhouse called Cleaver. It's like kind of like a restaurant hangout. There's 2 of them. It's our go-to, obsessed with it. But there's also a few sushi restaurants that I've learned will easily accommodate gluten restrictions. But that took a little bit more trial and error to find those places. But I usually, like I said, I'll stick to like the steakhouse or like things that I know that I can eat, because, obviously, like I don't have to really worry too much at some of these places, and just knowing the chefs and like being able to ask them like, hey, can I have this? And they're like, yes or no. That really helps. And, all restaurants and casinos are going to be able to accommodate gluten-free or any sort of dietary restrictions. We have so many resources at our fingertips. So every time I go out to eat at the Wynn, I'm like, I know I'm going to be fine, which is great. Okay.
Right. Well, and that reminds me, because I mentioned it to you before we went on air, is when I first started doing this, oh my gosh, 2003. So 2009, 13 years ago, whatever my math is there. It was about the time that Steve Wynn, and this is a story I always use, he got divorced. He started dating someone else, and then he realized he went on a vegan diet, and he couldn't eat in his own restaurants or in the banquet kitchen. And so he tasked them, everybody in the kitchen, to come up with items so that he could actually eat in his own property. And I'm assuming that has, stayed with the hotel the whole time.
Yeah. So when I first started at the Wynn, like a little bit more than 3 years ago, we all had vegan menus, and we would be required to have, 5 appetizers, 5 entrees, and a dessert. Like those are just the general parameters, and we could interpret it however we wanted. And as long as it matched the style of restaurant that we have, and that has kind of evolved to a living well menu. There's a huge focus on wellness at the hotel right now, and making sure that, even though there's a lot, because I feel like a lot of things in Las Vegas might not have the reputation of living well, there is a huge focus on wellness here, and just making sure that you're living, a healthy lifestyle. So our menus now, we'll have all of those vegan offerings still, but we also have, our lighter fares or things that might be lower in calories or prepared with less fats and stuff like that. So to accommodate all types of dietary restrictions.
That's awesome. And I will be there in 3 weeks for IMAX. So I'm definitely going to.
Yeah. The 16th, I think it starts, right?
Yep. 16th. Yeah. So I will make sure that I come. What days are you open 7 days a week?
We're open Wednesday through Sunday. So we're closed on Monday and Tuesday.
Okay. So I can eat there Sunday night and Wednesday night. Oh, and Thursday night. Okay, perfect. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to come all 3 days, but I will come.
I understand.
And actually, before the show, you said you're going to be in the MGM booth at IMAX.
Yeah, we're going to be,
or not MGM, sorry, the Wynn booth.
Oops. Yeah, the Wynn booth. It's Wynn booth at Mandalay Bay. I said Mandalay Bay, right?
Yes, it's at Mandalay Bay. Yes.
Yeah, and we're going to, showcase some of the stuff that we're offering at our brunch.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And okay, so on that note, because this is a convention of meeting professionals, do you do a large, and you just did the James Beard dinner for 60 people. Do you typically do group events?
I do whatever they sign me up for. So we actually just did a huge pop-up at Life is Beautiful, which is a music show, it's a concert, is a music festival. I'm not a big music festival kind of person. I went to a music festival when I was 21 and I hated it. And I told myself I would never go to another one again. And then my boss had different plans for me. That was 1,300 people in one day. And then we're actually doing Las Vegas Food and Wine next week at the Palms, and we're going to be serving 2,000 people. So when we first opened Casa Playa, we got signed up to do a lot of stuff like that to like promote Casa Playa, and it was a lot. But now that we're 2 years in, we're pretty established, and like we have a really, we have a good momentum going. Doing stuff like this has grown to be a little bit more fun than stressful, which is good. There's always a little bit of stress. But
always, yeah.
I think that we're able to represent the restaurant really well, and we have a lot more resources now than we did 2 years ago. So I'm super excited about it.
And a meeting planner could buy out the restaurant for a group?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We do buyouts all the time, and we also do like smaller buyouts too. So we have the restaurant. I wouldn't say it's divided because it's one big room, but there's 2 bar areas, and one bar area can accommodate like a party of 70. So if you didn't want to buy out the whole restaurant and you had not even like a smaller group, this is still a pretty good sized group, you could do that. And we also have 2 PDRs. Each can accommodate 20 people, or you can, there's a wall that divides them. You can get rid of the wall and we can do 40 people in the room as well. So there's a lot of options.
Okay, awesome. And PDR is private dining room for those people who didn't catch that. No, that's okay. That's awesome. I love the different options that you have in there. And it's so fun. I'm excited to come and meet you at IMAX, but also and come eat your food while I'm there. Now, one of the things that I read about you, and it was because of this James Beard thing, it was in the Off the Strip publication or website. Yes. And he said, it says that the James Beard Foundation has realized that you are handedly one of the preeminent Mexican chefs in the country. How does that feel?
That feels amazing. It's such a compliment, and it was so nice to read those words. David's been to the restaurant, the person who wrote the article, I think 2 or 3 times now. And he I met him. We did this huge Opus One dinner called Under the Stars, where we got a big, I don't know if you know Francis Molman. He's an Argentinian chef that will cook over an open fire. We built out this huge grill, and we cooked all of our food. We literally started cooking at 9 o'clock in the morning for a 6 o'clock dinner, getting like whole animals, big prawns, all of these things. It was magical. And it was a really great way to showcase our food. And I feel like that really was the jumping off point, and things have just kind of catapulted from there. And it was really nice to read that.
That's awesome. And just tying back in, because you've worked at Michelin-star restaurants, do you have a goal of making Casa Playa Michelin-star?
I would love that. I mean, I don't like Las Vegas isn't recognized on the Michelin map right now. Michelin stars. It's not. It was until about 2007 or 2008. I think that when this happened with the housing bubble, a lot of stuff they took it away. But I hope that one day, now that Michelin's kind of coming back to all these different markets, it's in Denver, it's in Florida, it recognizes all of California, not just San Francisco. I'm hoping that, Las Vegas is on my radar in the future, because that would be incredible.
Yeah, that would be really impressive to have there. And to have under your belt. And so on that note too, what have you learned from working in Michelin-star restaurants in New York and such that you bring to Casa Playa?
I mean, it's a standard of, ingredients, a standard of, professionalism, and just like a style of service. And doing that, I worked at Marea, which is an Italian restaurant, but they also just like doing to Michelin-star level at the volume that we're doing is not small. A lot of those Michelin-star restaurants that are at that level are doing, 20 covers, 30 covers. Well, Marea was doing 600 covers. So learning to do quality work at that amount of volume and how to go about doing it was very informative.
Now, okay, and I'm just pulling this up. It's going back to my head in the bear, and then Will Guidara. Do you know
Guidara,
yeah. And his hospitality book. Was that one of his restaurants too, or no?
He was in 11 Madison Park.
Okay.
He was, in the Nomad.
Okay. How does that his whole thought process on hospitality come to you at Casa Playa?
I mean, we wouldn't be a restaurant if it wasn't for hospitality. I think that even though like people think of food first or this first and this and the other, but it's the whole idea of hospitality is what we're doing at the restaurant. It's like, whether it's creating a super unique experience for someone, remembering that they, came in and they really liked this wine. So like we'll have this wine chilled because we know that they're going to want to order it instead of having to wait for it to be chilled, or, knowing that, this person has this dietary restriction and they really like this dish. This isn't on the menu anymore, but like, let's make this happen for them tonight. Like, it's not just like it's about giving that experience to everyone. And it starts with, it's from everyone. It's like your servers, the person bussing the tables and filling the water. It's the bartenders making the drink. It's, the person making your guacamole or your ceviche, and the person like organizing the flow of service, the dessert, like every single bit, like every person who eats at a restaurant has 10 people plus making that experience for them. And they might not see those 10 people doing it, but there is like, there's, people making sure the kitchen is clean. There's people, restocking plates so like they can get all the food out as fast as possible. And all of those things are crucial to make the restaurant run, and also, crucial to the whole experience that you're getting at that table. And, you might not see it, but it's all happening behind the scenes.
Right. Yeah. Because the one person they see is the server. Right. And maybe if you're cooking, the chef, if they're cooking in that open kitchen or something like that. But yeah, I love that. And even the people who are washing the dishes, right? Yeah.
It's all super important.
Yeah. Very cool. So to the question that I ask everybody is, what does a safe, sustainable, and inclusive dining experience mean to you? And coming at it from a chef and coming at it from somebody with celiac disease, or none of those.
I mean, I feel like I'm thinking about it from more of like a work perspective, like a professional perspective, like, sustainable and inclusive. You think of your ingredients and the people that you are working with. We kind of touched on a lot of this, like sustainably sourced ingredients, and taking all that effort to make sure you're getting those right ingredients and making sure they aren't processed in a way that you don't support. And then an inclusivity is, we touched on this, making sure that every person that you are working with has all the tools to succeed, whether it's menu knowledge or literally a knife. Like, you want to make sure people are in a safe work environment. People are ready to, excel and push themselves, but also they feel like they're being supported in all of the ways that they need to be.
That's awesome. Okay. So, and then I'm just going to tie that question back to safety for Food Safety Awareness Month, and celiac. What advice do you have for other chefs who want to make their kitchen safer for individuals with different dietary restrictions?
I think that just having a good knowledge of ingredients and what goes into them and the cooking process that you're using is huge. Like, once I started learning more about, ingredients and feeling comfortable with the ingredients that we're working with, and feeling comfortable with each style of cooking that we're using, whether it's, even like braising or frying or pan searing, and just like being aware of all of these things and how you can adjust and what you can do differently to accommodate all of these little things. And just like, like I said, the knowledge is everything. Getting your hands on stuff. Like, I'm very hands-on. Like, I don't do well like reading a book. Like, I want my hands on these ingredients. I want to see where they came from. But like, sometimes like that's me. But
Right.
There's a lot of resources out there to get that knowledge.
Okay, awesome. Well, is there anything you want to share with anybody on last thought?
I mean, I think that we're good. It was so great talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on. And I look forward to meeting you in a few weeks.
I know. I'm so excited. So and let's see, you can reach Sarah on her Instagram, which is at Sarah C. Thompson. And then at Casa Playa, which is in the Wynn Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. Yes. And you said Wednesday through Sunday.
Yep. And we're open for brunch on the weekends.
Oh, okay. Awesome. And is it lunch and dinner on what?
Dinner only on Wednesday through Friday, and then brunch and dinner on the weekends, on Friday and Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate it. Great way to end Food Safety Awareness Month. I really appreciate your time and your expertise. So everybody, if go eat Sarah's food, and go eat Sarah's food, especially if you can't have gluten. or allergies, because you're going to be delighted. And
if you like food, you'll like my food.
right. Exactly. All right. So until next time, which is next Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern, stay safe and eat well. And everybody have a fantastic weekend. Thanks.
Thank you.